Thanks for coming out to the basement on this sweaty evening in New York City. This is Awkward Teenage Years. I am your host, Will Clegg. And how many people, just by round of applause, have ever been to one of our shows before? All right. How many, this is your first time? All right, a bunch, great, perfect. So this is the show where we've invited some of New York's finest storytellers to come here and to retell their teenage trauma for your entertainment. These are all going to be true stories that you're going to hear tonight, as remembered by our storytellers. And the only real theme is that the stories have to be about our teenage years. So you're going to hear a lot of stories about like firsts, like crushes and kisses and stories about, failing tests and making the sports teams. Probably not with this crowd, I don't know. But you might hear some stories about some parties tonight, which will be a lot of fun. And while we wait for any latecomers to arrive, I'm going to regale you with a story of one of my own firsts. This is the story of my first kiss. We'll see if that's the reaction you have later. So at the beginning of my 8th grade year, in August, there was a rumor going around my middle school that I, Will Clegg, had made out with a very attractive girl in Florida over the summer. I started this rumor, obviously, but it wasn't true. It wasn't true. I almost made out with a very attractive girl in Florida that summer. That was true. I'd gone down to Sanibel Island with my friend who lived right across the street from me. He was my only friend because I'd switched schools and I had a real hard time fitting in. And so his family took me down to Sanibel Island with them. And at the hotel that we were staying at, there's this girl named Alexa there. And she was 14 to my 13 elder, woman, and very beautiful. She had long brown hair. She looked like a woman. I looked like this little scrawny guy, and she looked like a grown woman, And we were hanging out the whole week together, laughing and getting to know each other. And then the last night, we were sitting in the hot tub, and there was like a lot of tension in the hot tub. My friend Christian could feel it, and so he got up and left and went back to the hotel room. Her sister gets up and leaves and goes back to the hotel room. It was just me and Alexa, and I should have probably kissed her, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. How do you make that first move? It's that catch-22 of you need experience to have confidence, right? But then you don't have any confidence if you don't have any experience. And so I just sat there, talking and laughing with her until it just got quiet and late. And eventually we just both went back to our rooms. And when I get back, Christian's like, so what happened? Did you kiss her? And I'm like, yeah, of course I did. And then he told other people that, and the rumor starts to spread around the school, right? So now people are asking me about it and how it was, and I don't really know what to say. I don't have any details to give them, and so I start to tell the lie, and then I get the details mixed up as I keep telling the lie, and it occurs to me I need to actually kiss a girl, and I need witnesses, preferably, so that I can make this right in my life. I'm just starting to have a social life again for the first time, and I'm good at the part where I get to know the girl, and maybe even ask her out. I don't know if this is a thing where you grew up, but if you're gonna become boyfriend and girlfriend at my middle school, you chat to the girl for a while and you ask her, do you want to go out? That's the formal question. And she says yes or she says no. If she says yes, then you're boyfriend and girlfriend. You're going out. You're not going anywhere though, That's just the language that we hear adults use. So we're oh, we're going out. And it lasts a week. Somebody hurts the other one's feelings and it's all over, right? And I've done that a few times and even held hands a couple times. Hot stuff, yeah. But I never could get to the next level. And I'm complaining about this to my new friend, Jeff. Jeff has just transferred over to our school from another school and doesn't have any friends. So that's why we're friends. And Jeff is I know somebody for you. Yeah, do you know Kate? Now, Kate went to the private school that Jeff had gone to before, right? And I knew her from growing up from church. Our families knew each other. I didn't really know her well. But apparently, once we got to the 8th grade, she just started like making out with a lot of people, right? And there was a rumor that she'd even had sex. I didn't believe that. I chose not to believe that. But she had made out with like 2 guys that I knew, and I verified it. And so it's like, okay, well, maybe like this is the right person to teach me how to make out, right? And I see Kate at a party like a week later, a birthday party, and I chat her up a little bit, and it's going well. I know how to do this part, you know, and then I get her phone number. I call her up a few times. We talk on the phone. She tells me all about her idiot ex-boyfriend, and I brag to her about doing stupid stuff like smoking weed on the way to school, and then smoking cigarettes in the bus parking lot after school, and eventually, I pop the question, do you want to go out? And she says yes. All right, so now I've got this girlfriend at another school, right? And Jeff can even verify it. It suddenly makes my whole Florida story like a little more believable to some people. And then, okay, now I gotta like find a situation where we can actually make out, right? And the way that we would do this is we would go on a group date. I'm too young to be going out on one-on-one dates at this point, right? And I've been on some of these group dates before where like it's not just gonna be me and Kate. It's gonna be me and Kate and Becca and Adam and Jeff and a few other people. And we say we're all going to a movie together, but really what's gonna happen is Kate and I are gonna sit in the front row and everybody else is gonna sit like 3 rows behind us, right? And everybody else gets like a double feature. Like they get to watch the movie and they also get to watch what's going on in the front row. And I've been the spectator before, right? But I've never been the one in the couple. And so we make the plan to go see a matinee of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Classic romantic date movie. And so we get our tickets. It's very cold out. It's February, and Kate shows up. She's got this short little like brown bob, and she's wearing this big winter jacket. She looks really cute, and so we walk in and we sit down in our seats in the front row. Everybody sits behind us. I can feel their eyes like prying my skull open, right? And the movie starts. And I don't really know what to do still, right? Because I still don't have any confidence at all. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, I can hear some murmuring behind it. Like, I know what they're saying. Like, when's it going to happen? What's going to happen? And so I reach out and I put my arm around Kate. And she snuggles right up to my shoulder. And I'm like, all right, this has never happened before. I guess we're heading in the right direction, you know? And so then I decide I'm going to pull the only move that I have, which is turn and stare at her. This has never worked before. So I don't expect it to work this time either, but I just turn and I stare at her. And instead of staring straight ahead and doing anything to avoid my gaze, like a couple other girls have done, Kate turns right up to me and just kisses me right away. And I'm totally unprepared. Her tongue goes right into my mouth. And it's like strong and soft and very wet, and it's like jabbing and like poking at my tongue, and like it occurs to me like, oh, I gotta fight back, I guess, you know. So like then our tongues are just kind of jabbing at each other for a little while, and then finally I kind of relax into it a little bit, and it becomes more like a dance. And then I hear from behind me Jeff go, "All right, Will." Yeah. He's got to take a little credit for this thing that he's engineered here, right? And but I don't care. I'm so happy to finally be making out for the first time in my life. And I don't know if it's like been 2 minutes or 20 minutes, but eventually we slow down, our lips part, and she snuggles back up onto my shoulder. And we just watch the rest of the movie in silence, holding hands. And it feels great. So after the date is over, a couple days later, I call Kate back up on the phone, and her mom tells me that she can't come to the phone. She's busy. All right, that's never happened before, but whatever. 2 days later, I call again. Same thing happens. She's busy. She can't come to the phone. And so the next day at school, I asked Jeff, like, I thought things were like going pretty good you saw, with Kate. And he's like, oh man, yeah. She got back together with her ex-boyfriend. As soon as he heard that she had made out with me, he got jealous and they got back together, which I think is what she really wanted all along, to make out with the public school boy with the long hair and make her ex-boyfriend jealous. I was okay with it, though. I think we both kind of got like what we wanted out of this very short-lived relationship. And then I finally had the experience, and the confidence now to go on and be a terrible kisser for the rest of middle school. So, thank you. All right, let's get the show rolling. I think all of our latecomers are here. So first up, coming to the stage, very excited to have him here. This is his first time performing on Awkward Teenage Years. He has written for The New Yorker, very impressive, and he's got his own monthly show called The Autoimmune Saloon. Please welcome Ian Goldstein.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. Thanks, Will. How's it going? Good. Great. Wow, the lights are very shiny. That's me right there. That's what you were laughing at. Yep. Yeah. That's me. That's my sister's grad school graduation. I look like Michael Cera there. So, and I don't know who that guy is, and I still don't know who he is. So I was never someone who took many recreational drugs. And you could probably tell that because I just used the term recreational drugs. I never did that growing up much. And I think one of the main reasons for this was because of DARE. Do you remember DARE? Drug Abuse Resistance Education. These were like assemblies we'd have in school where the speakers would come up. They'd be in like their 30s or 40s, and they'd be like, "Don't do drugs. I lost all my friends." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't want to lose my friends." And I'm like in 3rd grade. And they're like, "I lost my family." I'm like, "I don't want to lose my family." So then they would leave, just like, "Don't do drugs." I'd be like, "Okay, I'm not going to do drugs." And then the teacher would be like, "It's time for recess." I'd be like, "I'm still thinking about the drugs." So as time went on, I didn't do any drugs. And I remember being in like 6th grade, and I came home from school one day, and I see my brother outside with his friends, and he's smoking. And I went to my mom, and I started crying, because I'm like, Andrew's going to be a DARE speaker. He's smoking. And my mom says, "What was he smoking?" And I said, "He was smoking weed." Because she said, "Was it cigarettes or weed?" And I said, "It's weed." And she said, "Oh, he'll be fine. That's okay." And I was like, well, what about the DARE speaker, though? So I get into high school. I still have this mindset, don't do drugs. But around 11th grade, I get diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease, if you don't know, is a chronic inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract. It's not that much fun. And in 11th grade, so the symptoms are essentially you lose a bunch of weight. I lost like 20 pounds. You're going to the bathroom a lot, so a lot of times running out of chemistry class to make the bathroom in time. And I would get these spasms. And the spasms would be like right here, and they'd be really intense. They would be like, I kind of have to just like double over in pain, just let it pass. And this would happen very frequently throughout the day. So I went to my doctor at the time, Dr. Zinkin, Noah Zinkin on Long Island, great gastroenterologist. And he said, you can take this pill called Cymax Duotab. It's a small white pill you could take whenever you get a spasm as needed, it'll go away. And I took it, and it worked, and it was amazing. So I took Cymax Duotab with me everywhere. It was phenomenal. The pain would go away. And where a lot of juniors in high school might have fake IDs and condoms in their wallet, I had Cymax Duotab. So I brought it with me everywhere. It was in my wallet at all times. So over time, I don't need it as much, and I start using another medication called Humira. And so I get to college, and sophomore year, I'm 19 years old. I look like that, and I'm in college, and I'm not going to that many parties, but one Saturday night, my friends Dylan and Nick say, "Hey, we're going to this party in downtown Albany." I went to the University of Albany. "Do you want to come?" And I'm in the middle of watching the Beatles anthology for the 30th time on YouTube, so I'm like, you know what, I'll just go. I should socialize, I should really talk to somebody. Not keep thinking about John Lennon all the time. So I get on the UAlbany transit bus, and we go downtown. We go to this house. It's a college house, whatever, $10 to get into a terrible party. And I go downstairs, and as I'm about to go to this, there's a sea of 19-year-olds around me, 18, 19-year-olds, college kids, and I go to the keg, and as I'm about to pour a drink in, my cup, I see all the 19-year-olds just scatter and run upstairs. And instinctually, I follow them, my friends follow them, and in front of me is Dylan, and Dylan, as we're running upstairs, trips. And that trip is, it's like 5 seconds or like 4 seconds, but it feels like 3 minutes. And he gets up, and we're about to run out this way to follow all the other kids, but we hear to our right, "You two get over here." And we look to our right, and we see a kitchen full of caught college kids, just sunken looking, and 2 police officers. And they have us stand around each other, and the cops say, "All right, everyone take out your wallets, we're gonna take out your IDs and write your information down." So they start doing that. They take out everyone's wallets, they write their information down, let them go, information down, let them go. They get to me, write down my information, and then from my wallet, they take out a bag, and the bag is filled with crushed up white powder. And they said, "Is this cocaine?" And I said, "Oh my God, no, that's my Cymax Duo tab." They don't know what I'm talking about. I said, "That's my Cymax Duo tab. I have Crohn's disease. I don't take it anymore. It got crushed by my wallet. I take Humira now." Again, they don't know what I'm talking about. So they said, "Put your hands behind your back." Yeah. So I put my hands behind my back. They started putting handcuffs on me. Handcuffs are very tight, if you don't know. So I have my hands behind my back. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to be a DARE speaker. And again, they asked me, "Is this cocaine?" Now, just so you know, I've never done cocaine in my life. I've never been near cocaine. The closest I've ever come to being near cocaine is when my parents got divorced and my mom was listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac. So I'm standing there, and I don't know why I said this, but out loud, I said to the cops, I said, "I've never been to the principal's office in my life." Like, what was I expecting at 19? Like, they were gonna be like, "Oh my God, you've never been to the principal's office in your life? We have to let you go." There's no prison that has anyone who's been to the principal's office. So I have my hands behind my back still. And one of the cops starts looking at me, and he starts staring at me. And my face is beet red, I'm sweating, because I'm like, this is the end of my life. And he's staring at me. And he starts to tilt his head, and he goes, "You know, you remind me of someone. You remind me of that kid from Dazed and Confused." And if you haven't seen Dazed and Confused, it's a movie about some high school kids in the 1970s. And most of the kids are like partiers, but there's one character who's extremely neurotic about parties. So I'm like, "The Jewish kid. You mean the Jewish kid?" So I'm like, "Okay, great. We have a slightly anti-Semitic cop here. That's great." And the actor that played this Jewish character is named Adam Goldberg. And Adam Goldberg starred in one of the only Jewish holiday movies, The Hebrew Hammer. So he was really picking the Jewish people. And so he's looking at me, and somewhere in his anti-Semitism, he took pity on me. So he said, "All right, unhandcuff him." Because I kept saying, "I have Crohn's disease." It was such a specific reason to not have cocaine. And he said, "All right, we're going to let you go. But if we find out this is cocaine, we have your information." So they let me go. I go back to my dorm. It's like 3 a.m. and I'm on my quad that night, just kind of like pacing back and forth. Nobody's up. And I think of the one person I can call at that point. And it's the person I thought was going to be a DARE speaker when I was younger. My brother Andrew, who is now an Orthodox Jew studying at a yeshiva in Israel. So not a DARE speaker. And I call him and I said, "Andrew, this is just what happened. What's going to happen to me?" Like he knows, And he said, "Did you have cocaine on you?" I said, "No." He said, echoing my mom from earlier, he said, "Nah, you'll be fine." Thank you.
I couldn't help but think of a party that I went to once in the 8th grade where the cops didn't come, right? And I'm thinking now, like, how did the cops not come to this party? I was in a band. I don't know if you noticed my long hair before, but I was in this band. I played the drums poorly, and we played like Rage Against the Machine and Metallica and all this loud stuff. And so we got invited to play at this party. Very big deal for middle schoolers. But there was also a second band playing at the party, so we were like the openers. And so we get there, and my mom looks around, and we're in an apartment, like a 2-bedroom apartment in the middle of a huge complex. And she was like, "No, I'm not leaving your drums here, okay?" And she took the drums back with her. Fortunately, there was another band coming, so I just played that guy's drum set, right? But we were playing like the loudest we could possibly play. Kids were smoking blunts in the apartment. You know, there's alcohol everywhere. We're all like 13, 14, 15 years old. There's one adult. She's all fucked up too. In a 2-bedroom apartment, you know? And the cops never came. Like, I just don't, like, I think about that now all the time. How did that happen? And then, like, you go to this one party, you know, with crushed up medicine and get arrested. So I don't know, just bad luck, I guess. But let's hear it one more time for Ian, everybody. All right, next up, our next performer, this is also his first time on the show. You may notice this is a bit of a pattern tonight. He grew up acting and singing, and after a long, long break in the real world, he's back on stage. He's having an incredible time. Really excited to have him here. Please welcome David Ezell.
I'm not as tall. You screwed the sound really good. I'm considered a strong guy, so thank you. Let's hear it for Will. Thank you very much. I don't have a way to explain this other than to say that I lost my virginity 2 times. So let me explain what I mean. I grew up in a southern college town. It's kind of the quintessential town that you would imagine. It's got a very green campus and these really old oak trees, and it's super shady. And there are shirtless, like, boys playing soccer on the front lawn there. And there's a ton of girls laying in the grass watching the boys, but they're pretending like they're studying. And that's the world that I lived in. And if we went there right now, they're probably still doing it right now. I mean, that's the way it's always been. And as you can see, I was one of these 16-year-olds who looked like I was grown up when I was 16. I could grow a mustache. To my older friend's chagrin, I could grow a beard if I wanted to. And my voice had changed when I was 14 years old. So I sounded like a man, you know. And I was running around with an older crowd and a lot of college people. And I became aware of the fact that 16 was the median age for American males to lose their virginity. And I thought, wow, okay, I'm behind the times. I mean, I'm already almost 6 months into being 16, and I got to work on this. And I knew a lot of older girls because I had worked in the college theater, and there was this one girl named Kathy, and I heard that she had a pretty major crush on me. So I decided that, she'd be the one to help me out. And we went out for a couple months, and I tried to rid myself of my virginity with Kathy on a fairly regular basis. The very narrow back seat of a 200 SX, if you know what that car is like that wide maybe, kind of in the back corner at the old campus movie theater, which a couple of times, and then on my mother's sofa on repeated occasions. And for one reason or another, she would put me off, but I was very insistent. And finally, one day, it was the week before Halloween, she told me that her roommate was going to be going away. And she said that she wanted me to come by her dorm and, that we would get together, so to speak. So I was pretty excited about that, needless to say. And this just in, 16-year-old horny boys are not the most discreet people you're ever going to meet. Okay? So I told everybody that I was about to lose my virginity. I told all of my high school friends, I told my college friends, I told my theater friends, I told my neighbors. Everybody but my parents. This was the big event was going to happen, and I was ready for it. I made a discovery on Halloween, the day of Halloween. Do we call it Halloween Day? That I'm not very good with condoms, and I've never been. I'm good with condoms. This is my first experience, and. We're in the dorm room, and I'm tearing this package, and my hands are sweaty, and you see I'm weak. I can't even do the mic stand, and I'm biting at it, and then I get it out, and I put it on inside out or backwards or something, so Kathy, she said, let me help you out. I mean, she was an older woman. She was 20 years old. She kind of knew her way around the block, And so she set me up, so to speak. And I then I knew what to do. I kind of could take it from there. And she had like one of those old digital flip clock radios on her dresser. And I was looking at that clock radio, and it's like 4:01, 4:02, 03, 04, and we're done. So, well, at least I was done. And I immediately just hopped up and I said, I have to go pick my mother up from work. And my mother really gets irritated if I'm late, so I have to go right now. And I put my pants on and I just headed out of the dorm. I didn't ever speak to Kathy again. It's not my proudest moment. And I was, I was kind of happy, but I was excited, but I was embarrassed, and I was confused, and I didn't really understand what was going on. It didn't happen like I thought it was going to, and I realized something too, that it really didn't feel that different to me than when I did it by myself. So, I kind of puzzled with that, and I told my best friend, and he was super excited for me, and he said, but then when I started telling him, that I'm done, I'm not going to date her anymore, I'm not going to talk to Kathy, he got really angry at me, and he said, what is wrong with you? Don't you know? I mean, don't you want to do it again? And so I thought about that question a lot. Yeah. And I mean, I had never thought about doing it again. I just wanted to get it done with, kind of like checking it off the list. So a couple of weeks later, I figured out the answer to that question. I was cutting across campus because, I was 16, but I looked like that, and I'm walking around, and I'm going to meet some of my friends, and somebody says, hey to me, and I'm like, hey, and it's one of these guys that plays soccer, and he came up to me, and he said, hi, and I said, hey, and he told me his name was Landon. And he was, he's a soccer player. He's very lean and he's muscular. kind of a preview of my romantic life for the rest of my life, you know. And he had a yellow Tweety bird tattoo on his right bicep. And that made a pretty big impression on me. And I said, you know, I mean, I'm kind of stunned. I'm just staring at him, you know. And he goes, well, what class are you in? Where? And I said, oh, God, yeah, I'm not in college. I'm in the 10th grade. And he laughed at me. But I mean, he didn't laugh at me, you know. And he said, gosh, I thought you were my age. And it turns out that he was a freshman. He had come here on a scholarship from Memphis. And so he told me that he had seen me in a play a couple of months earlier and that he thought I was really good. And, you know, I said, thanks. And then just kind of this awkward teenage silence. And I said, bye, and I took off, you know. So that was how the ice got broken. And over the next few weeks, we would cross paths with each other because he was always out there playing soccer. And I actually laid in the grass like those girls did sometimes. And let me tell you something. None of you really know me. Well, a couple of you do, but I never lay in the grass, right? But I was laying in the grass and watching Landon and his friends play ball. And sometimes Landon would come and sit right next to me, and he would take a sip of my Coca-Cola without even asking me. And every now and then he would stand up and he would take his T-shirt off very nonchalantly and just kind of drop it by me and then run back out on the field. And I couldn't help staring at his chest. It was kind of shocking and kind of jarring. So this went on for a couple of weeks, and it got to be the week before Thanksgiving. And for those of you who have been to college, you know, college kind of clears out, and we're on the campus, and he's running around, and finally his friends kind of start breaking up, and he says to me, do you want to go to my place and listen to Pink Floyd? And I said, sure. Yeah, let's go. And I got this feeling, this crazy warm feeling that I had never had before, not with Kathy, not with anybody. And we walked to his, where he lived. He lived in like a converted, like southern mansion, you know, one of these big 3-story things. And it had peeling paint and it like an El Camino and like a pickup truck parked in the front yard. And we climbed like 2 flights of stairs to this little tiny room, which had probably been a supply closet or something. And it had a single window, and he had the window open and a box fan that was attempting to cool this very hot and humid room. But I really didn't mind the heat. And he had a boombox with a CD player in it, and he had 2 CDs. He had Toto's Greatest Hits and, you know, Pink Floyd. So he put The Dark Side of the Moon on, and he started touching me exactly the way Kathy had in October. But it was very different. And I started touching him too, and that Tweety bird, I kissed and I licked that Tweety bird, and I mean, he was so tan, and the Tweety bird was so yellow, and I was fascinated with this, and he, you know, and the energy, the feelings that I was feeling, I couldn't believe it. It was just really overwhelming. And so after about an hour, he said, do you want to hang out some more? Do you want to stay? And I said, yeah, do you have a phone? And he dug like underneath this big pile of sweaty clothes. One of these phones like shaped like a football. And, so I take the football and I call my mom and I said, hey, Mama, I forgot that I've got a project due for Mr. Ethier and it's due tomorrow, and so I'm going to stay late at the library and I'm going to get Jimmy to drive me back home later. Okay, bye. And I hung the football up because I didn't want to hear my mother say no. And I stayed there till almost 9 o'clock. I'm happy to tell you that that was not my only encounter in that hot little room. And I had Landon helped me understand a lot of things about things that I didn't know. And because of him, I finally understood what the big deal was about. Thank you.
Great story, David. I'm a little jealous now because I can't grow a mustache now, and I'm 43, and you could do it at 16. It's really impressive. Your excuse to get out of Kathy's room just, I think we've probably all done something like that at some point. I certainly was thinking about a late night drunken hookup in college, and I was at her place in her room. It's like 5 a.m. I can't sleep. What am I going to do? I've got this girl like on my arm, and I just want to go back to my bed and go to sleep, but I don't know how to do it. This is a recurring theme in my life where I'm just like stuck in these situations, not sure like how to react. And so it occurs to me the best thing to do is to pretend to fall asleep, wake up with a start like I just had a nightmare, and then rush out of the room and never talk to her again. And that is what I did. Yeah, that's what I did. I'm not proud of it. But I will say I did talk to her again. I mean, that was my plan, was to never talk to her again. I saw her like 2 days later and, had to apologize, and she was not real happy with me. But I did see her again at the college reunion last summer. And she's doing great. Glad to say that did not ruin her life, that moment. Let's hear it one more time for David, everybody. All right, we got 2 more storytellers for you, so let's get this next one up on stage. Really excited to have her here again, new face for our show. She has been telling stories for quite some time now, and after tonight, you can see her again at QED on July 19th at Trav SD's new variety show. You can hear her on an upcoming episode of Eric Vedder's podcast, and we're really excited to have her here. Please welcome Jennifer Glick.
Thank you. Oh. I look like a news anchor. Oh my God. Just, okay. Hey. It is 1981. I am 16 years old. I am driving a car. I am driving my dad's red Plymouth Volare. I am living in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am driving my car to the Carolina Circle Mall to be in a haunted house for my drama club. The reason I live in Greensboro, North Carolina is because my dad moved my family there in 1980 to open a bagel business. It's funny because it's true. My dad, he invested 20 years of his pension at the Xerox Corporation because he knew corporate America was going to fail him and the family. He sold my mother on it. He sold me and my brother on it. We moved down south. I work for him. I close on weekday afternoons and I work on Saturday and Sunday morning. He's this guy that previous to this endeavor, I saw him occasionally on Saturday morning because he made us pancakes, and now he's my boss, and I see him asleep on the couch at 7 because he's got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make the damn bagels. While I'm driving this car, I am wearing a magenta costume, not the color, the character in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, as portrayed by Patricia Quinn in the film and Daphne Rubin Vega on Broadway. It's the sheer organza maid's outfit. I'm wearing a black slip underneath it, and I feel sexy as hell, even though I am wearing pantyhose, the most unsexual garment ever created. And if you disagree with me, you're a skanky perv. I am listening to my Pretenders cassette. Chrissy Hind is telling me I'm special. It's true. I cannot wait to get to this haunted house and terrify small children. I cannot wait because I finally found something that's starting to make a little sense here. I mean, I came from Rochester. I lived sort of in a suburb that was dirtbag adjacent. And now I'm living in this town that's more sort of performance of Southern gentility adjacent, and I never quite got there, but I found Drama Club, and I feel like I found someplace I really belong, and I'm sure everybody in this room can understand that. And I'm so very excited about what I'm gonna do next, and I realize at this moment I've gotta lean over and flip my cassette so I can listen to the rest of the album, because we didn't have playlists then. We had to work for the things that we loved. So I lean over, press the button, and boom, my steering wheel hits me in the chest. I am thrown back against the red vinyl bench seat. My car hits the car in front of it, which hits the car in front of it. Time stops. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I check, am I bleeding? Did the dress tear? No broken glass. Okay. I am not dead, but I'm gonna wish I was. Because then the cops show up, and they come over to me and they ask me for my home phone number. And I give it to them, knowing that they're going to use some sort of technical 1981 wizardry to call my dad. And that's going to be the end of it for me. I am in so much fucking trouble. My real life, as I've discovered, is not going to end. My social life will, and that matters so much more to me. They're never going to let me out of the house again. I wait some moments. Dad shows up. We're real quiet as we watch the Volare get towed away. It's totaled, the frame's bent. I get in the car. I am quiet on the way home. I'm wondering what a monastic life will be like. We get out of the car, we get in the house, and my dad turns to me and says, "Hey kid, you all right? Want a drink?" Don't go clutching your pearls, Lorraine. All right, it's 1981. I have been drinking Shabbat wine since I was 11. I had a bat mitzvah. In the eyes of my faith, I'm a man, so I'm gonna drink like one. And I say to him, "No, Dad, but there's this party I want to go to." Because I am 16 and I'm rather single-minded, and I gotta get this out before he changes his mind. And to my surprise, he takes me. And I'll be honest with you right up front, the reason why he asked me for a drink is because he wanted one. With Jewish parents, that's how it works. With my mother, it was, "I'm cold, you should put on a sweater." I'm not making it up. So I get back in the car, I direct him, he drives me, drops me off. I walk into this party, and it's hosted by a woman named Nicole, who's a friend of my friend Lisa. And I walk into the living room, and there's someone who I guess is Nicole, is sitting there, so Gone with the Wind fabulous, wearing this dress that Scarlett would have worn to 12 Oaks for that barbecue. surrounded by bows, and on the coffee table is 2-liter grocery store generic soda and some grocery store potato chips, and I'm like, nope, that's not gonna cut it. I make a beeline to the fridge. Peer, what? Oh, behind the skim milk is a natural light. That's not gonna do it either. I've cheated death. I deserve Michelob, for fuck's sake. Bush, something. And I look out the window and I see that there's a circle of people on the driveway. And I see there's my friend Lisa, there's her boyfriend Kurt, there's Kurt's main henchman Steve, and they're passing a joint around. Aha! Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could smoke some weed, and maybe then all of it, somebody will look attractive, and I might want to make out with them. Who knows? Sky's the limit, friends. And I get out there and I weasel my way into the circle, and it comes to me, and it's like fucking nothing. Like a roach with nothing. And at that moment, Kurt decided to hold court because it's his fucking weed. That's how that works. What's the difference between pussy and parsley? Nobody eats parsley. Well, I do on Passover for saltwater, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So, like, okay, I did not get what I wanted out of this. Walk back into the house, fridge, poof, gone, no natural light for me. The way Jewish holidays are described, they tried to eat it, they tried to kill us. It didn't happen, let's eat. I am trying real hard here to have a good time. I am not getting what I want. Nothing's gonna get any better. I need to go the fuck home. I am not calling my dad to come get me. He's gotta be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not gonna fucking happen. I look again outside the window, the circle's dissipated. I see Kurt sort of on the side of the house. I walk outside, I approach him, I realize, oh, he's pissing on a shrub. Well, Jennifer, usually I like to do this by myself, but if you're into it, can you please give me a ride home? Nah, man, I gotta take Lisa, but Steve, talk to Steve, he could do it. And I find Steve, I ask him, he says yes, it's great. We get into his dad's Cutlass 88. It's quiet. But if I think about what has happened to me, I will just go crazy. I'll think about it tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day. Using my inside my head voice, and we get to my house. Steve parks the car on the curb next to my driveway, and all of a sudden, Steve gets bold. Steve starts doing this. And any of you well-endowed gals know, that's not what they're doing. That's not what they want. Not even close, because then Steve does this. And he starts yakking at me. Feels good, right? You like it, right? Okay, under ordinary circumstances, some boy is paying attention to me. I'd do anything he wanted just to get more attention. Ordinary circumstances have left the building. Steve, you motherfucker, if you rip this dress, I'm putting your head through the windshield. And if my dad comes out and catches you feeling me up, the rest of you's gonna follow. Again, I used my inside my head voice. I just unbuckled my seatbelt, opened my door, walked out, slammed it behind me. I didn't even look back, walk into the house, found my dad at the kitchen table, like I knew he would be. And I said to him, hey, Dad, I think I'll have that drink now. And he found that hearty burgundy that we always like to use to to bring the Sabbath Queen. And Ernest and Julio Gallo have not made anything that has ever tasted that good since. Thank you.
Well, I was actually afraid to have a drink when I was already 21 with my parents, so that's pretty cool that you were able to do that. Wow, thanks so much. Let's hear it one more time for Jennifer, everybody. We've got one more storyteller for you tonight, but before we do that, I'm going to do a little song and dance about this show. If you were sitting there in the audience, or maybe the few of you that are watching there on the live stream, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I have a story about my teenage years, and I'd like to tell it on this show. We encourage that, really. A number of the people that are here tonight have pitched us or watched the show and then come and talk to us afterwards, and so we'd like for you to do that too. You can email us at awkwardteenageyears@gmail.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us. And then if you want to follow us on the social media apps, the best one is definitely Instagram. That's where we're the most active. We also do the Facebook, although not really very often, if I'm being honest. And then we do have a Twitter account. But Twitter is just, does anybody have a Blue Sky invite that they could send me? Because I think, we're just done with Twitter at this point. I'm going to take the graphic down after tonight, all right? Because all we do is disparage it, and it should be disparage, I think. If you want to see our older shows, so we started the show here in this theater in February of 2020. We were the last show that a lot of people saw right before the pandemic began. And then we did... was it 1,000 online shows, Grant? I think 1,000, maybe 2,000. I don't know. So many online shows. You can watch those if you want. But we also have a lot of live shows recorded on the YouTube. They're all there. You can see the entire 3.5-year history of this show on the YouTube at Awkward Teenage Years. And that's it. That's the song and dance. Okay, so moving on to our final storyteller. Very excited to bring him back to the show. Yes, one returning champion. He's an engineer by trade. He will talk your ear off about coffee, and he says he sometimes tells stories. He also sometimes wins Moth Story Slams. We're really excited to have him back on the show. Please welcome Harjas Singh.
Give it up for Will and everyone who helps put the show together. Thank you so much. So there's this reality TV show that I used to watch with my younger brother when I was growing up in India. And it had a more profound impact on the both of us than I care to admit now. The show was called MTV Roadies. The best way that I can describe the show is a cross between Survivor, a B-grade found footage road trip movie, and interspersed with talking heads. And this show had contestants mostly in their early 20s, and they would road trip across the country on motorbikes, competing in tasks and challenges, adventure sports for a modest sum of money. But it wasn't the sum of money that was the real prize. The real prize was the transformational journey that this show promised. Push yourself to the limit. Impossible is nothing, and this could manifest in all sorts of forms, whether it's whitewater rafting in the Himalayas or eating silkworms on a dare. But for the 15-year-old, school-going, straight-edge teenager in me, this was the epitome of cool. You know how parents ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And on their face, I used to say engineer, but in my heart, I used to say roadie. In season 5 of the show, roadies pulled a big one. They said they were going to go international, Thailand. Adventures in Thailand included parasailing, banana boat rides, and scuba diving. And I would watch the show in awe, thinking, when am I going to have my transformational journey? So imagine my surprise when a year later my dad tells us that we would be vacationing for a week in Thailand. Really, Dad? Thailand, you say? Are we going to the beach? Yes. Can we do adventure sports? Yes. Parasailing, scuba diving, banana boat rides? Yes, yes, yes. And all I could think of in my heart was, I'm going to be a roadie. So me, my dad, my mom, and my younger brother, 11 years old, we set out for the white sandy beaches of Pattaya. And we did everything as promised. We did the parasailing 100 feet above the ocean. We did banana boat rides, but the scuba diving was not necessarily as advertised. See, for scuba, you need training and certification, 2 things we didn't have. What we would be doing was a sea walk, which is a scuba dive, but with training wheels. I'll explain. So the next morning, we take a speedboat from shore to about 500 meters into the ocean. That's about 7 New York City blocks for those who don't do metric. And what was essentially a diving rig in the middle of the ocean. Once we get there, our sea walk instructor tells us what to expect. We would be putting on these 70-pound heavy helmets on our head, and these would be connected with the diving rig the whole time and would have a constant supply of oxygen so we could breathe underwater. And the weight of the helmets is what was going to keep us on the ocean floor 30 feet below, so we could actually walk in the sea walk. For obvious reasons, it's difficult to communicate underwater, so our instructor gave us signs to communicate. Thumbs up, thumbs down, all good. Up, down, all good. So I could not wait to brag to my friends about this experience when I was going to go back home. And for the main event, what we were supposed to do was, on the edge of the diving rig was the ladder, and you kind of start to go down the ladder until you're submerged up to your neck in water, and then the instructor would throw the helmet down on you, let go of the ladder, and the weight just takes you all the way down. So my mom was going to go first, then me, then my dad, and then finally my younger brother. So when I was submerged up to my neck, the instructor put the helmet on my head. I let go. The weight was massive. My eyes closed. The air pressure in my ears went high because of the water. I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, it felt like I was transported to a different world. The sea water shimmering yellow, green, and blue. Schools of fishes just swimming by, touching my body, as if they didn't care that I was there, and I felt like I was part of the ocean, and I thought, this is what it must have felt like in Finding Nemo. When I made it all the way down to the ocean floor, I looked up, I saw my mom, I saw my dad, didn't see my brother. My mom looked up at me, saw my dad, didn't see my brother. We all had the same thought. He didn't make it down. Our tour guide, the person who's going to actually take us on the sea walk, completely unaware that a person was missing, has started the tour. But we are panicking, and because we can't communicate with each other, we're just left to hypothesize what happened. Did the oxygen fail? Is he okay? Did he drown? We just didn't know. My mom was trying to communicate with the instructor, afraid that she lost her son in an unknown country. And the guide in the meantime has picked up a starfish and sea anemone, and he's showing it to us, and he's saying, oh, doesn't it look beautiful? And my mom says, no, we need to go up. We need to go up. And then the instructor is like, oh, this is just a tourist who's confusing the thumbs up sign and the all good sign. And he sees this happen all the time, so he just ignores it, and he thinks that my mom is saying how beautiful the starfish is, but my mom is saying, fuck that, we need to go up, we need to go up. But this guy didn't care, and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't communicate, so we just resigned ourselves to spending 20 minutes under the water, just hoping that my brother was okay up there. After 20 agonizing minutes, when we finally made it back up on the diving rig, we saw my brother was in the corner just sitting there. He was fine. He was fine. But having left him there made me feel like we had left him behind. Roadies is still going on to this day. They're 19 seasons in. My brother actually still watches the show diligently. But what I realized that day was, as many adventures as these people go on, I was indexing on the wrong thing. When I went down into the water that day, I went down for myself. But when I came back up with more love in my heart for my brother than I knew was possible. The adventures are great, but they're meaningless if they're not shared with the people that you love. Me and my brother, we've gone on many adventures since then. We've hiked, biked, road tripped across the country. And for me, the thing that I remember now is that he always comes first. He never gets left behind. And that is what makes everything between us all good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Harjas. Thank you to all of our guests. That's our show, folks. Thank you to Ian, to Harjas, to Jennifer, to Bridget, and to David. It's here for Lauren up in the booth, Cameron at the bar, Tess on house, Grant, my producing partner here. We do the show once a month, usually, but we're taking a little summer hiatus. So we're going to be back in the fall, but we're on the first Wednesday of every month. So if you had a great time tonight, please tell a friend. And if you didn't, tell your enemies. We'll take their money as well. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.